My first meeting was the next year in Buffalo in 1996. There were a couple of good reasons for that. One was that the original MSH2 mutation paper had been authored by Rick Fischel out of University of Vermont at that time, and so it was big news here, and we were one of the first places to start a hereditary cancer clinic because of that. And the administration here was pretty close with the administration of Roswell Park in Buffalo, and so we became aware very early of the CGA activities.
My favorite piece of CGA swagger memorabilia is this paperweight from the 1996 ICGH and PCC meeting, which I understand was like part of the like birth of CGA, and it was like a combined meeting. And I was starstruck by Henry Lynch at that meeting and all the genetic counselors that were there as well, including June Peters.
I think my first meeting was in Baltimore also, but it was Jose Guillem's meeting, which must have been in the early 2000s when I was a GI fellow. What was so exciting about it was that I had the opportunity to meet many of the people who I had only read about before, including Henry Lynch, James Church, and if I remember correctly, I think that maybe Bert Vogelstein might have been at that meeting as well.
My first CGA meeting was in 2002 in Baltimore, Maryland. It's a very small event, 40 people. But one of the things I remember most was it was my first introduction to the rock stars of our profession. We were able to get Bert Vogelstein to come speak with us. Now, this is important because Dr. Vogelstein did not go to meetings. He didn't talk, he didn't present. So getting him to come talk to us was a big deal. Dr. Vogelstein arrived, loaded his slides, and went to the bathroom. And that's where I met him, in the men's room. So it goes to show you, you have to be in the right place at the right time in order to have those kinds of events happen.
My first meeting was actually in 2006, Utah. I first got introduced to the CGA when Randy Burt was invited to come to Vanderbilt University, where I had started my first faculty job in 2004. He came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, you really should consider being involved in this group, the collaborative group of the Americas on Inherited Colorectal Cancer." And I said, "Well, that sounds spectacular." So I was actually invited to give a talk in Utah. I remember James Church being in the audience, a number of other luminaries and great figures in the history of the organization. Quite nervous at that time. Do remember James asking me a question related to chemo prevention and its use to try to delay surgery. I really didn't know the answer at the time. I kind of did the best that I could as to how I would use it, obviously given my vast, at that time, 2-year experience in taking care of these patients independently as an attending.
First meeting that I went to was in 2007 in La Jolla, California. I remember I went at the urging of one of my mentors, Dr. James Church, and had an absolute fantastic time at the meeting. It was still relatively small back then, but I got to meet a lot of people from many different specialties. Learned a ton, both from surgical mentors as well as genetic counselors and GI docs. Just overall great multidisciplinary clinic, or great multidisciplinary conference, and learned a lot of stuff, which really hooked me in and got me coming back every year after that.
My first meeting was the 2010 meeting in Dallas. It was actually my first scientific meeting of any sort. So I remember being petrified to be up on stage and giving a talk and being peppered with questions. But I remember it being just a very warm and welcoming environment. I remember people introducing themselves to me, people who I knew very much who they were, even if they didn't know who I was. And I remember it just being such a great environment to nerd out on hereditary GI cancers, but also just the community was fantastic.
My first meeting was in Anaheim, California. I had been invited to speak by Brandy Leach, and I immediately drank the CGA Kool-Aid. I remember being warmly welcomed by people like Dennis Annan, Pat Lynch, Tom Weber, Brandy Leach, Elena Stoffel, Faye Castrinos, Carol Burke, and so many others.
My first CGA meeting that I went to was 2013 in New Orleans. And then that pairs up with the next meeting I went to, which was 2014 in Baltimore. And what I remember about it was being introduced to people by Heather Hampel, who I had started working with in my last year as a fellow and first year as an attending in our GI genetics clinic, and lucky enough to start working with her and Rachel Perlman. And just being introduced to lots of people where I had read all their papers and been amazed with their work. Then all of a sudden I was meeting them, and how easy it was to be kind of included in the community and, talk with people, even as, a newcomer, not just in practice, but also in this specialized field. And then the next year at that second meeting, having people remember me and really feeling part of the community.
I actually don't remember the first year or city that I attended CGA, but I certainly remember the magical feeling of when I first attended. It felt like going into a room of celebrities, nerdy celebrities maybe, but it was so amazing to sit at a table next to a person whose paper you had quoted on a regular basis. And not only did you get to sit at the table with that person, you got to learn from them during their presentations, and you got to engage in friendly conversations with those people. And I just remember thinking, this is really going to help me grow as a professional so much.